Guys, we have the doctor here. We are ready to get underway. It's Pinnacle Fighting Championship 6. We send it up to the MC, the main man inside the cage, George Phillips, as he is going to bring the first fighters out. Take it away, George.
Ladies and gentlemen, our first bout of the evening is scheduled for 3 rounds and takes place in the amateur 175-pound weight division. This bout is being brought to you by Rivertown Brewing. Introducing your combatants. First, fighting out of the blue corner, please welcome Roger Williams.
Roger Williams comes to the cage, 5'9", 175, fighting out of the Chainsaw Army in Watertown, New York. And Kyle, you've got some familiarity with that area. You grew up around there, but what I'd like to ask you about, especially with Williams, comes in at 36 years of age and it's his first time in the cage. What's going through his mind?
I can't speak as far as a 36-year-old man going into the cage for the first time, but as a fighter, it is a very daunting thing. You come into a building expecting to get into a fight, you can deal with that mentally. But once you get down that aisleway and you understand that door closes, you have to do it. It is a completely different mindset, and the adrenaline takes over and your heart goes crazy. I can only assume that with maturity and hopefully wisdom of age and years here, that he takes a little better than I did my first time out.
And the other issue for Williams, Dave, that we need to think about is that there was a delay due to the doctor. So those jitters while he's waiting in the back, waiting for this music to hit, got extended a little bit. We'll see how that affects him when he hits this cage.
Yeah, that's something that's always huge, especially your first fight. But I think once that cage door shuts and the fight starts, those all go away.
And what we have to remember as well, guys,
as we're going to get George Phillips to bring out the second fighter, Mike Baker, to the cage.
And his opponent, fighting out of the red corner, please welcome Mike Baker.
Now, as I was saying before Baker was announced here, what we have to remember is both guys are making their debut. So it's not just a problem here for Williams. Baker also is feeling those same debut jitters. And I have to say, despite being in the amateur division where sometimes the shin guards make you look a little less than daunting, Williams inside the cage right now is an absolute scary sight for anybody, let alone a debut fighter.
And you mentioned the shin guards. This is the amateur division. The rules, when you have less than 3 fights, there are shin guards. There's no strikes to the face on the ground, no head kicks. As we take a look at the tail of the tape, Kyle, what stands out to you?
The main thing that stands out to me is the difference in the age here. We have Mike Baker coming in at 24 and Roger Williams coming in at 36. That's a 12-year difference. Now, we can say that both men are mature enough for the man's strength, if you will, but I have to think that the age difference will come into play later rounds if it goes that far. The youth will take over, perhaps the cardio. I mean, Williams is a thick man with a lot of muscle to provide oxygen to, so that could also play a factor in the rounds 2 and 3.
Mike Baker, as he gets greased up by his corner, slapping himself in the face, getting pumped up.
A guy with a lot of experience, actually, comes from a smaller gym, a new gym. They used to train in a garage, and now they actually have a new gym, underground grappling, out in the Greensburg area, which is just outside of Pittsburgh. And while this is his first MMA fight, he does actually have a lot of experience in other combat sports. He has a lot of grappling experience, a little bit of striking experience, and he's just ready to make his MMA debut here tonight.
Well, let's get this thing started. We send it up to George Phillips to introduce the fighters.
Ladies and gentlemen, our first bout of the evening is scheduled for 3 rounds and takes place in the 175-pound weight division. Brought to you by Rivertown Brewing. Your referee in charge of the action is Chip Snyder. Introducing your combatants. First, fighting out of the blue corner, this mixed martial artist stands 5 feet 9 inches tall and weighed in at 172 pounds. Tonight, he makes his MMA debut inside this cage. Representing Chainsaw Army, he hails from Watertown, New York. Please welcome Roger Williams. His opponent across the cage to my right, fighting out of the red corner. This mixed martial artist stands 5 feet 10 inches tall and weighed in at 173 and 1/2 pounds. Tonight, he makes his MMA debut inside this cage. Representing Underground Grappling, he hails from Greensburg, Pennsylvania. Please welcome Mike Baker. 2 debut fighters, so someone's has got to go.
We're underway, first fight, Pinnacle FC6. It's Roger Williams in the white shorts. Mike Baker in the black with the red trim. Ryan Cavanaugh, Kyle Rozeski, and Dave McKinney bringing you all the action. 175-pound catchweight division.
You know what, neither one of these guys, even though they're debuts, neither one of these guys seem to have a lot of jitters coming out in this fight.
See, I was actually seeing something different. Ooh, good flurry to come out. Now both guys throwing lead leg teeps into some dirty boxing here, but I was actually saying something different, David. I said that Williams actually looked a little bit more timid coming out than Baker did.
At the weigh-ins yesterday, he did look intense, and right now it's Baker. A lot of shoulder pressure, pushing Williams up against the cage, working the body, but the underhook on the left side by Williams, and look for him to try to turn him here and put Baker up against the cage.
Now see, here's where we are going to have a little bit of problem trying to figure out what the next move for each man is, as we don't know much about either of their backgrounds. Both are really content with just sticking on the fence, grinding out some dirty boxing in close quarters here.
Well, I think what we're seeing here is that first fight. Let's, throw some punches, exchange. They both got hit. It kind of broke that sweat. The fight doesn't start until you get hit. And here they are now working the clinch.
Yeah, and Baker, if he wants his takedown, needs to get his head on the other side of Williams' head.
I think first he needs to fight off that good break apart there by the referee. Bring these men back out to the center of the cage.
Short round. With a lead left by Baker. Connects in. Williams with the right. Baker's down.
Williams connects, but Baker was actually trying to secure a single, but now turns his back in a strange fashion where he could get his own back taken for this.
Kyle, can he choke him out from this position?
It's going to be very hard to. He potentially could right now, and he's going for that guillotine as we speak, but he needs to get that left leg around, control the hips and the lower half of Baker's body here.
And it looks as if Williams has the left arm of Baker caught. He gets it out. But a big shot by Williams, a right counter right off the exchange, drop Baker. Baker looks to have his wits about him.
And just the way he recovered so quickly makes me wonder if it was more of an off-balance thing than an actual physical strike that put him down. And now we see the unfortunate part, though, of these intermediate amateur rules. When we do get to the ground and pound portion, they aren't allowed to really hit in the face here. They can go to the body, but that's about the extent of their offensive capabilities.
These are also 2-minute rounds in the original amateur division. And that does it for round one. Baker looks to help Williams up somewhat half-heartedly. Guys, we're going to go to you all night in these rounds as we have two guys who know a few things about MMA. Dave, we'll start with you. How do you score this first round between Baker and Williams?
That was a tough round to score. I think that just based on it's pretty even, but Baker seemed to be a little bit the aggressor there. He did get clipped and dropped there, but he was definitely the aggressor. Kind of was the guy kept moving forward and had good position for much of the round.
I would have to agree with that opinion. It's tough to score damage, especially in this particular division, because we don't see a whole lot. Unless it's a clean knockout in this particular portion of the amateur division, it's really hard to gauge who got the better of who.
And another difficult thing is that guys don't really have enough time to work. It appeared as if Baker was able to spend most of the time on top, but not do all the damage. Round two, get a good look at Roger Williams.
He is definitely a very cut-up individual. Coming into the cage, just a physical presence really to be reckoned with, but as I kind of thought, he is breathing. Oh, wow. Baker went to swing huge and absolutely
Baker
whiffed.
lost his mouthpiece there when he got clipped by Williams.
Somebody's mouthpiece is out. I think it is Baker's.
Really surprised referee Chip Snyder not stopping this fight to put his mouthpiece back in, especially because these guys are brand new in the cage. You want to be able to protect these guys as much as possible.
And almost on cue, David McKinney goes to get the mouthpiece out.
It appears as if he's going to keep him in the same position.
Now, see, this I always agreed with. I don't think that it's fair to reset fighters who have earned that position because the other guy's mouthpiece went out,
But it is nice of the ref to say, take your arm off him while we get the mouthpiece in.
Right. Well, I think it might even be for Williams' benefit here, as he is heaving heavily. You can visibly see his lungs moving up and down.
Williams has been able to land the big shots, whereas Baker has been able to control the fight on the ground as we see him taking top position once again.
Definitely see Baker as more of a grappling fighter. It looks like Roger Williams wants to win this fight with his striking.
And now, one thing that I really abhor in MMA is grabbing the head from the bottom position as Williams is doing right now and attempt to stand up. He's really exposing his back a lot to Baker, and this could be the beginning of the end if Baker gets his head out. Oh, Baker again dropping levels when he really only had to go the back door.
He might finish it here. Williams grabbing that guillotine. Looks like he...
Second leg, and he ends up in mount. Williams is mounted, but again, no strikes to the head in this
And
position.
he actually just threw one, and I did not hear anything from the referee.
I did see the referee warn him there just briefly.
Oh, no, look at his mouth is bleeding from that one strike, which really kind of shows you the power of Williams.
Williams is a big, thick fighter.
I mean, look at
175 pounder, he packs a lot of power.
Absolutely. And there's dynamite between those shoulders. You could see now just a muscular frame. And that's not a man you want sitting on you and hitting you. If there is a man in the world that I would want sitting on me and hitting me, it would have to be my man to my left, David McKinney.
And Baker switching positions.
There we go. There's good head positioning by Baker. Looks like he just got knee in the low there.
Very impressed with the grappling of Baker. He's good in scrambles, and he seems to have more power as we come to near the end of round 2.
Nice power double leg right there.
Now, I would almost even say, not to take anything away from Baker, but Williams seems a bit lost when it comes time to clinch up. I haven't seen him fight for underhooks. He's going for head control. I mean, even now, he's on the bottom and he's holding onto the head. If you're trying to get up, the last thing you want to do is hold your opponent to you.
That does it for round 2 between Mike Baker and Roger Williams. This round may have been more difficult to score than round 2. I'm glad I'm not going to do it, but I'm going to put you guys on the spot. David McKinney, how do you have this fight after 2 rounds?
You know what, despite the fact that he keeps getting clipped, Baker is winning the majority of the round. He's done that both times. You can't win a round with 1 or 2 big shots. That's what Roger Williams seems like he's trying to do, but he keeps ending up on his back, and that's not a way to win a fight in MMA.
Yeah, I would have to agree totally. Baker is absolutely controlling where this fight is going. He came out flying, guns blazing, missed a huge right hand, but still managed to control the rest of the round, staying on top of Williams and absolutely gassing him out. You can see in the corners right now between the rounds, Baker looks much the fresher of the two.
Sure does. Exactly. And one of the points that'll be interesting for the judges is the takedown by Baker at the end of the round. I may not agree with it, but judges seem to score takedowns more heavily than other action in a mixed martial arts fight.
I wonder if 2 things are making a difference in this fight so far. Number 1, Baker's grappling experience, and number 2, Roger Williams' age difference, 36 years old. Of course, that cardio is never there. It's tough, and also he's a very muscle-bound guy.
Third and final round, Mike Baker in the black trunks, red trim, throws a leg kick and a quick left by Roger Williams.
Oh.
Baker's hurt.
Williams.
Autopilot again, shooting for the leg.
Absolutely. Williams connected with a great uppercut that seemed to stun Baker, and then Baker by instinct drops levels again and takes Williams down. And honestly, if he was smart, I would ride the fight out here. It looks like now Williams going for an out-of-position guillotine might be met with a Von Flue choke for his efforts.
And you spoke
Looks
about
like
the
that's
Von
what
Flue
Baker's
choke
going
on
for
your
here.
guys' radio show this week, and that
I
can't believe
did.
it's happening, but we might be seeing it right here. Of course, Kyle, Von Flue choke is the head pushing the shoulder of Williams on one side and his arm on the other.
We
to
just
cut
saw
off
the
carotids.
power of Williams
Absolutely.
right there. Pull Baker into his guard, basically by from side control, pull Baker into his guard.
And we've got a stoppage again by the ref
Apparently.
for a mouthpiece.
And guys, the way to stop that is get a fitted mouthpiece. Spend $35 and get a fitted mouthpiece.
The interesting thing about that stoppage is that he was working on the ground. There was
Exactly.
ground and pound going on. He was mid-strike when the ref stepped in. And,
Now-
and Dave, you mentioned, I'm sorry, Kyle, but you mentioned fresh fighters, surprised they didn't take the mouthpiece out. You can't strike on the ground to the head, so it shouldn't be a concern.
Absolutely. And it's another thing, though, is that a safer thing to do for the ref with the fighter's health in mind, or is it not, to stop somebody mid-strike? I mean, you never know whether it's going to land, where he's planning to aim on it. I mean, mid-motion, it just seems like a bit crazy to do for a stand-up there. I would wait for a lull when the guy's actually gripping.
We're into the last minute of a very close fight. Mike Baker, Roger Williams. Baker on top of Williams, continuing to work those ribs. David, what does Williams have to do to get up from his back here?
Well, the big thing here, he has to stay off of being flat off of his back. Needs to get his hips up off the ground and look to buck Mike Baker off of him.
He needs to move, honestly. I wish that, there we go. And he's flat his back. You're not going anywhere with your hips attached to the ground, and I would think that his corner would have more desperation at this point. Oh, wow, a double of his own. And Williams puts Baker on his butt for his
pulling
effort.
for a
Baker with
guillotine,
an
nice sweep.
easy sweep, though.
Williams safe from the choke here. This is just a body lock by Baker. 15 seconds left in this fight, and I think this is where the fight's going to stay on the ground.
essentially, it seems now that both men are kind of content to ride it out, just staying safe and not taking any big chances.
And William looks gassed here. He just basically gave that mount to Baker here.
Gave up the mount. Final 10 seconds. Mike Baker in the mount on top of Roger Williams. Can't strike to the head. Works position, and that fight is in the books. Baker helps up Williams. You know, for two guys, for their first fight, they both look very technical and skilled, and they put on quite an even battle. Kyle, how do you see this fight?
First of all, I want to mention I'm very impressed with both men's composure in this fight, both making their debut. I feel like Williams could have done more, and perhaps that lost him a decision in this case. But I do put some of it on Baker as well for not finishing. He had ample opportunity to do such, and if he does lose this fight by decision, which really could go either way at this point, I wouldn't be surprised then either.
Dave, you are not one of the official judges, but you got a scorecard in the Ryan Kavanaugh book. How do you see this one? Who do you give it to?
I think I gave all 3 rounds to Mike Baker there. He was definitely the aggressor. He did get caught with a couple of shots, but I don't think that was enough to give Roger Williams any of the 3 rounds.
I think it's going to be interesting if they lean more towards strikes or damage, because I certainly think Roger Williams laid the heavier leather, but control of the cage certainly goes to Mike Baker with his work on the ground.
Absolutely, and see, that's one of the things that has become an issue over the years is MMA scoring and judging. You don't know who the judges are, what their background is, and what they tend to score heavier. You might have a wrestler who was judged that night, or a Taekwondo expert who was judged that night. I'm really trying to push for a nationwide kind of like judges college sort of establishment to where we're all judging mixed martial arts as a whole. Not necessarily one facet of the game, but the fight in itself. Who came away looking the worst, who landed the most damage. If it goes to decision, we need some clear-cut criteria as opposed to just personal opinion.
I'd like to give some credit to Pinnacle Fighting Championship. You know, as good as this card is, it starts off with 2 fighters making their debut, and this is one of the best 0-0 versus 0-0 fights I've ever seen.
Those guys didn't look
We've
like
got
debut
George
guys.
Phillips in the ring, and he has the official judge scorecards. We send it up to him to make it official.
Ladies and gentlemen, before we go to the scorecards, a round of applause for a hard-fought opening contest. The final bell has rung and your judges have spoken. Judge Phil Rogers, Todd Koska, and John Lepsevic all saw it the same. 29-28 for your winner by unanimous decision. And now undefeated inside the cage in the red corner, Mike Baker.
Victorious Mike Baker's going to have some words with Dave Click here inside the cage.
All right, let's give it up for Roger Williams from Chainsaw Army. Came out here from New York to take this fight. And now for the man of the hour. I'm here with Mike Baker from Higher Ground Wrestling, Underground Grappling, that's right, new club for us, out of Greensburg, Pennsylvania, training with some tough guys. You're gonna see his teammate, Jonathan Kaufman, coming out here and bringing the pain next. Mike, you're undefeated in the cage now at 1-0. Tell us how you feel now after your first official cage fight.
Good. Feel good.
Mike has a lot to say tonight. I'm sure the adrenaline's just now starting to slowly not pump anymore. Anyone you'd like to thank before you get out of here?
Sean Zagouras and Charlie Smith, everybody else that's been behind me from the start.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mike Baker, 1-0.